Many of my subscribers are knowledge professionals, high income professionals, business owners, executives, and folks who want to get the maximum value of your time. So, I'm going to share with you a little bit about how I use artificial intelligence to multiply the value of my time and to help maintain peak performance, and some areas where artificial intelligence isn't going to help you one bit. I'm Justin Hitt from Inside Strategic Relations, and let's get started first. The main part of what you do, the subject matter expertise that you have, will not be replaced by artificial intelligence. Sure, your business wants to take your six-figure job and turn it into some automated routine of prompts that's going to solve all their problems in the business. That is a fantasy. Now, you should be concerned about it because businesses do make dumb mistakes. They do lay off valuable people, just figuring they can hire them back later. And as we've talked about in other episodes, there's even a strategy where you lay off people, short the team, force them in order to automate and drop out ineffective and useless activities, and then of course burn them out because the folks that are unemployed will be more than eager to come in and work for less. So here's the bigger point. Artificial intelligence has been trained on public knowledge and has not been trained on the experiences, the nuances, and the lateral thinking that a human can deliver. It may get better in the future to do this, but it has a special set of skills that you can use to be more productive. So, for example, if you're going to write a large technical report about a detailed subject, so for example, it could be a chemical manufacturing process, and you're going to write out the procedures for doing that. And the controls that are necessary for testing along the way. You're going to have diagrams of how the different departments interact with each other, different inputs and outputs. You're going to have chemical formulas. Artificial intelligence cannot do that part, but artificial intelligence can check your work. So you can give it formulas and ask it if those are the right formulas, if those formulas are appropriately written. They can take the formula from one format and move it to a different format. They can check your document to see that the formula is contextually implemented to point out problems. It may not be able to tell you the specific problem, but if there is a reactive agent, it can tell you that that's there. That's basic chemistry information. It can take your large document and help you with spell check and grammar. So your document might be overly technical, but the audience is business level executives, and you're going to rewrite the document to be better understood by executives. Maybe you've written this big document that needs to be understood by marketing or salespeople, and so artificial intelligence can help you with that translation. It can also help you with translating between different languages. But again, in all of these methods, you want to make sure there is a qualified human to review the document once it's done. Because again, it's machine learning off of public data, including Wikipedia and other resources that have been known to have errors and defects. And then, of course, as they tune the language model, some things, it's a general language model. As they tune it, some things get a little out of whack. Also, AI has a propensity to just return an answer, not necessarily the right answer. But again, how are we more time effective? How do we get more work accomplished? How are we more productive? And then how do we translate that productivity into additional income, additional influence and control, additional value in your business? Well, if you have a big complex document and you want to now turn it into a resume, or you want to turn it into a slide deck, or you want to digest it to be easily understood by a general audience, or even in writing a paper. So you're taking a big body of work and you're going to digest it down into slides. AI can do a wonderful job of that. You can ask AI to give you the highlights of a particular document. Now, it depends on what platform you're on, but the general context is to upload the document. You do not want to upload proprietary documents because, again, these language models are learning from the data that you give it. But let's say you've published a paper in a journal, or you have a couple papers, you put them in the system, and you ask it, please give me the top key takeaways from this particular document. Summarize this document for an executive audience. What are the key values of this particular document when it pertains to X? It'll come back with a list. Now, will this list be ready to use? No, but if you read all the documents and then you had to come up with that list yourself, you could be a couple hours into it where the AI platform can read all the documents together. One thing that's really good about the AI is you can give it two similar documents. So maybe it's two public post articles, and there's different, depends on the platform, and we can help you with this, how you get that text into the AI. But you can say, tell me the similarities between these two documents. So you can do a Venn diagram of the two documents by saying, tell me the similarities. Tell me what's different about these documents. Now, again, you still probably need to read the documents, and you still need to review what's left over, and you still need to use the AI output as a reference material for your final writing. But I save hundreds of hours doing this. I save with writing emails. I save time with writing short articles. So, for example, I do a podcast, it's 15 minutes. I could transcribe the podcast and then break the podcast up into social media posts, descriptions, different short articles, headlines, other things. Or I could have AI listen to my podcast and provide me a list of the key talking points. That's a presentation. It can provide me a list of suitable headlines for the text that's there. It can provide me a summary. So very often I'll do my podcast and then I'll take the transcript from the podcast, take it over to an AI platform, and there's different platforms for different needs. If you want to talk specifically about using artificial intelligence in your productivity cycles, because again, we do not want to feed this confidential or private information. Okay. And then we don't want to use this for low value stuff like just creating content. We want to be able to improve our communication. So maybe you just did a keynote presentation at a trade organization. And now, as part of the marketing of your business or yourself as a professional, you want to start syndicating that keynote so that you can establish credibility, so that you can position yourself in the marketplace. Maybe you picked up a copy of my book, Establish Instant Credibility, and you take the transcript of your keynote or the original presentation, feed it to AI, and ask questions like, uh, provide a list of social media posts relevant to this article, provide a key list of bullet points, rewrite this article or rewrite this transcript for an executive level audience. Rewrite this transcript for a peer level audience. And of course, you'll describe the peer group that you're writing to. Turn this transcript into an email message inviting the person on the other side to listen to the keynote. Do you see what we're doing here? You already did the keynote. You already have a transcript of it or your original script that you used to do the keynote. Now we're creating email messages that we can send out in our peer group. We're creating LinkedIn posts to show people about the podcast. Imagine being, or podcast or keynote, imagine being invited to do a keynote speech, even at your local trade association. I've spoken hundreds of times at the Procurement Managers Association in a regional area. I've been in town for business and then that evening spoke at a project management professionals group. I've spoken at business networking groups. All of these were recorded. I can take the transcript, I can publish the keynote, or the trade group publishes the keynote, and then I can simply go out there and send social media to that presentation. I can send people in my email list to that presentation. I can write an auxiliary article that points to the keynote. Now you've done the keynote once, and now you're using it many times. It could take days to digest your transcript, to listen to your program, to take notes again, and then to build it into different email format, short article format, social media post format, headline format, or to think about that content in a different way. Like I spoke to a group of program managers, but now I want to speak to executives to hire me as a program manager. How do we change the language so it's appropriate to those executives? Artificial intelligence can do these things for you. Artificial intelligence will help you solve these problems and to move to new levels when it comes to your ability to communicate with a target audience. Again, it's about that target audience. You can even ask AI, based on this transcript, what things does this article need to have in it, or does this keynote need to have to be better suited for an executive audience? So you spoke to your peers. How do we change it so you can speak to your potential hiring managers? This is about career development. This is about influence. This is about reusing content and effort you had before. The AI will not be able to write your keynote. It can write your keynote, but the keynote may not be suitable and it could make you look dumb for getting up there and saying things that are incorrect. But if you provided a narrow scope of subject material, this keynote transcript, it can build pretty decent results. Now, of course, if your transcript is garbage, if your keynote wasn't accurate, if you didn't have the persuasion techniques that you need in that, if you didn't establish authority, the AI is not going to add any of that stuff. And of course, that's why I put together my book, Establishing Instant Credibility, that's available on a number of channels, but you can go out to www.jwhco.com and you'll find it in the catalog there. But my point being, the hard work of your experience, your expertise, your stories, the hard work of your subject matter expertise can now be multiplied in value to reach a more qualified audience, to provide a more sensible presentation, to ultimately turn the work you've done in the past. Now, a lot of folks that listen to this are going to go back through their past presentations. They're going to go back through their brown bag luncheon presentations. They're going to go back through speeches that they did at work that maybe they can't use because they presented it at work. Well, again, you can do the transcript of a recording and then turn it into something else. Articles, slide deck presentations for webinars, sales presentations for consulting services, uh, supplemental information that drives to your resume or cover letters for your resume as you introduce yourself into new opportunities. Maybe you did 3 keynote presentations and now you're going to turn those into a book or a special report to position you as an expert in a marketplace. Now, when I work with clients and we do this, we use artificial intelligence because I am not a subject matter expert in chemical engineering. I'm not a subject matter expert in physical engineering or a high tech service or some technology platform, but I can take your transcripts. I can interview you. I can go through everything to create the transcripts, to build out the content. And now I'm able to mimic. Now it is mimicking. It's not actually you. You still need to read the materials and you have to they have to be technically accurate. I can't stress enough how AI will give you an answer, not necessarily a good answer. Uh, but again, we can if we narrow the scope of the language model to your transcript or your presentation, we very often get very high quality materials. Now, what's interesting is that we can take your video presentations, we can take your audio presentations, we can take an outline for a book, and then we can help you get to tangible, publishable materials. Now, what's interesting about this is now when you show up in the marketplace is that you have a full spectrum of content that positions you as an expert. So one of the interesting things that we've done recently for a client is we had them write a success journal, and they were already doing a success journal, but it was what they used to build their evaluations at work. And they were thinking about moving to a new industry and becoming more of a consultant rather than an employee. And so what we did is we took their success stories and we did the things that AI cannot do. We took the success story and we framed out problem, pain, and solution. So that's an interview interaction. We built out a transcript with the problem, pain, and solution, and then we asked AI to write short case studies illustrating the key points that were presented in this transcript. And so what we ended up with is these nice little case studies that after 2 or 3 revisions were solid presentations of the value of this individual. They were able to add 25% to their earnings. Now again, they're transitioning from salaried employee to consultant, and they were able to do this by adding consulting opportunities without quitting their day job. But essentially they gained influence in the marketplace by taking what they already knew and using the tools of artificial intelligence, using our editing services, using our research services, because it wasn't all AI. That's the secret. AI is a tool no different than a word processor. There is no magic in the AI other than it has this huge library of information and it can produce the search results out of your narrow set of content that is in a human readable format. But the point being is he was able to add 25% to his salary and then transition to a consulting position as he's closer to retirement because he was getting in a situation where there was very little upward mobility in his organization. But again, he had the subject matter expertise, he had the position in the organization to credentialize what he was doing, he had years of experience, and then now with the case studies built on the success journal. Now, we've talked about the success journals in the past. I won't go into it in detail here, but you can ask questions at www.insidestrategicrelations.com about what is a success journal, what's the value of tracking your successes. But again, I want to give you a practical example. We did a short interview. We fed the transcript of the interview into the AI platform. And then he also had video of this because we did this on a webinar and we used his side of the video because you don't need to see my pretty face on it. We edited out everything that I said. We focused specifically on his story around the value he delivered to clients. And we did this with relationship development, but we were also able to do this without revealing the confidential information that was associated with the very specialized work that he did. And this is what's the most important thing. The AI allows you to abstract information so that we can very quickly change Roger to Tommy and Tommy to some other name or the industry or something like that to create a credible skills-based case study that is not sharing any proprietary information. And this is extremely valuable. So we're literally taking the experience you already have, the subject matter expertise you have, even artifact materials that you have, and we're turning it into residual information. And the very best thing about this is without your additional time and interaction. Now, if we're turning a 1 hour long keynote into a 500-page book or a 100-page book, we're going to have to do a little consultation. We're going to have to do a little interview. You're going to have to write in maybe some outlines or some customer description so that you make sure that the AI knows the context of what we're doing. But the bottom line is I don't have to know everything you know if I've got transcripts, audio recordings, videos, um, notes that you put together. And none of that has to be in a perfect format. And then what comes out of that is case studies that you can present as part of getting invited to speak at groups, which helps you network and connect with people. Reports, case studies, books, other materials you might send to somebody to demonstrate your value, along with a proposal as a consultant, or other valuable materials that would normally take hundreds of hours to produce. And quite frankly, if you're a professional business owner or executive, you're quite busy and you don't have the time to do those things. Now, in the past, you'd have a freelancer do that and it would be a lot of back and forth. It doesn't have to be that way today. So, again, this is how I'm using artificial intelligence with my clients. If it's something that you're interested in doing, you want to visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com. If you're a platinum coaching member, it's something we're going to do every week for you. We're going to drop you these packets of information that you can extract from, cut and paste from. Because, like I said, if you went and flew across town and did flew across the country and did a keynote presentation. We want everybody who can hire you to know that you're such an expert that you were hired for this keynote presentation. And we're going to get you stuff to go on social media. We can even manage it for you. But press releases, articles to go out, even a newsletter to generate leads so that when someone wants to hire you or someone wants to solve the problems that you know how to solve, you've got this complete package. Now we build better packages with the platinum members, and we go through, your unique situation, and we have group coaching calls and stuff like that. But we also work directly with clients on these personal branding activities or these credibility positioning activities. Like I said, I'm the author of Establishing Instant Credibility. And when it comes to establishing instant credibility with a known hiring manager or a known recruiter, is that you can show up with credible artifacts. And so we build those out for the clients. I use AI to build those out, knowing full well that AI can't replace the high levels of skills that I have, but they can summarize something. Or when I do a presentation, like this podcast is going to be transcribed and fed to the AI for the show notes, for the description, for social media promotions and stuff like that. it's going to build on what I presented, even if what I present is not perfect. And that's probably the best value. You could hire a bunch of staff to go do this for you, and many people do have staff that does this for them. You could hire a publicist, you could hire a marketing agency, or like I've described here, you can learn some of the prompts that are useful to turn your longer transcripts or your more in-depth presentations into summaries, into marketing promotions, into emails, into other tools. Artificial intelligence is a valuable resource when you know how to use it. We have a number of articles and other podcasts that touch on how to increase your productivity using artificial intelligence. And if you, of course, if you have any questions, visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com. Now, the reason I didn't mention any specific platforms is because each platform has its own unique values. And so, if you want to do a consultation and talk specifically about your needs, I can recommend a few different platforms. But ultimately, it's most important to understand what AI can do and what it can't do. Because the value alone of doing a keynote presentation, and when it comes to thought leadership, is way value than pumping out a bunch of AI articles that don't connect with the audience. This is about being more persuasive. This is about positioning yourself as an expert. This is about leveraging your knowledge, and AI doesn't quite know how to do that yet. Obviously, if it did, it would help a lot of people, but really it's mimicking, it's parroting, it's summarizing, it's organizing. It's not actually able to do the persuasion. So that's the value add that my organization delivers to clients. And what we're conveying here in this Inside Strategic Relations podcast, where we help you transform business relationships into profits. And part of that connection that builds relationships is letting people know about the great things you're doing in a hearable way, demonstrating to them the value you can deliver. And you can even use this to share success stories on your team. I want to thank you for being a part of this podcast. I hope I'm delivering to you value. If I am, come on out to the website at www.insidestrategicrelations.com. Join our free newsletter. And then, of course, because you listened to this podcast and made it all the way to the end, you're welcome to ask your questions that we'll answer either in the group coaching calls, the webinars, or again, this podcast here, where the best podcasts are syndicated. We've got Apple Podcasts, we've got Google Podcasts. Anyway, I'm Justin Hitt, Inside Strategic Relations. Thanks for listening.